Hello, another video. This one is about preparing for Axion. If anyone doesn't know what Axion is, it's a UK event. It's uh, sort of run by Axion, which is like I didn't play Magic, so I don't really know this, but they're like the biggest place to go to for Magic in the UK. Maybe don't even know if it's in Europe. Probably just UK. I'm gonna be safe and just say the UK. But they do something called Lorcana Fest, and another great thing is like apparently the store has pretty much been a store that only does Magic. They don't do Pokemon or anything else, but they very much invest in Lorcana, and they think Lorcana's got a lot of lifespan to it, and I think it's a great game. So they've been doing these Lorcana fests, which is really awesome. They've got loads of cosplaying and stuff like that, and these big, huge events. Like it's a 2 day thing. I'm just going for the Saturday event, which will still be a set six event, but the Sunday event will be a set seven event. But we're still on the set six one, and just trying to figure out a list that I want to go for. Of course, we're really at the end of the meta cycle, so like lists are very precise on what they want to run. And before you click off, because I haven't got a Sapphire Steel list on the screen, I do have three lists here, and one of them is Amber Steel. My thought process on this is entirely is this set because of EU Continentals and store champs and other things like that. I've tried and put so much effort into playing um, the Kiwi Bird list that everyone knows, the Sapphire Steel dock, and I've spent probably testing that list more than I've ever tested any list in any card game ever. I've never played a deck more than that one. So building up for an event that's a month away, and we're still playing the same set. I kind of haven't had the drive to really want to play as much Kiwi Birds and keep. I mean, I don't think the list can progress too much further. I think you can change around some variables with it and build it differently, but I think the list is very much near its sort of at its peak, really. So to keep me fresh and to keep me actually wanting to test and actually wanting to practice this set even more, because as I say, you get to the end of a lifespan of a set and you've played it all, you found out what works, what doesn't work, and you're kind of just not that engaged with testing anymore. I've been trying different things out, and the first thing is I jumped back to a whole new world, Sapphire Steel. Realized that I've played too much Doc this set to try and jump on that list and like perform at the level I want to perform at. I'm still having fun. I'm still winning positive win rates, but I do not think it's the right one for me right now. Getting quite agitated with the testing as well. It's not going the way I want it to. So I thought, why don't we take this opportunity then where it's not a DLC, it's a big event and it's quite important that we do as well as we can, but it's not a DLC event. So why don't we learn the different color combo and then we can get our heads into it. So we've been learning Amber. So I will talk about the other two lists, but I will just talk about this list first. Of course, it's the closest to the Sapphire Steel Kiwi list because it's a dock build, and the Mind has basically been like one of my favorite cards as of recent. I love using it and dock as well. We get that little bit more draw power of Rapunzel. We play cheaper characters that quest for a lot more, like Daisy, and Cinderella is just an utterly broken card, hence the name that I've given this one, cheating on Alice of Cindy. So yeah, it's been really fun to test. It's been really good to learn it. Of course, being someone who's been dedicated to Sapphire Steel for so long, trying to learn a different color. The only other deck I ever really touch is Ruby Amethyst, only because in set one and two they were like the only deck you could play. So I played a lot of that, and then I keep it updated, and I tend to do like one store champs with it every set. But besides that, we haven't really learned anything else. But this felt like a good time to start learning Amber and learning really how to do the Rapunzel draw properly. What's a mulligan for? Like, I want the Cindy, let the Storm, like, majority of my games, but, how hard do I go for it? And it's been quite interesting. It's been really fun learning about the Lilos as well and how to use the Daisies properly. Not like trying to give them such a big hand size and stuff like that. It's really great. And I think this is quite interesting as well because pretty much a lot of people are on Doc Mines. Like I've been watching the Battle Bear event. This is going to timestamp it, but I've been watching the Battle Bear event today because I thought that might give me a good indication of where the meta is going towards. Of course, we had the Melbourne DLC, the fan won there, and that list's going everywhere as well, where it's like mass Maui Shark, burn, red blue, isn't it? And then you put some manners on top, and it's mega interesting. I thought that's where the meta would go towards. I thought people would play that, but pretty much everyone was on Doc Mines. I think every game I've watched there, and I've watched majority of these rounds. I've watched Spessie's stream and I've watched the actual stream, and the majority of them in Doc Mines. So I assume we're going to play into a lot of Doc Mines. So we include the Rapunzel's Tower in here, which has been a powerhouse of a card. If they're going to leave a trade open, like turn a Smee or a Calhoun sideways on two, and you've got your Calhoun up, maybe they just want you to trade in or something like that. You can sit the Rapunzel's Tower down, move it to it for one, so it's only a 3 ink cost thing to do. and then take something out and it's still there, and then you've got a lot better chance to get some Rapunzel value off. Which has been the most interesting part to learn from moving from the Sapphire Steel Kiwi builds to this, where I just thought because we had Rapunzel, we were just guaranteed a lot more card draw in the deck. But to be honest with you, not even just at the highest level, at most levels now, people are very aware of Rapunzel. They won't let you like have a Lawrence like value where you could run it in and then heal it. So it's finding these trickier ways to actually get Rapunzel value. Maybe it's them forgetting that Daisy could just hit something and then be Rapunzel healed, or Rapunzel's tower down hit. Hopefully it survives, and the next turn you Rapunzel the character. So yeah, it's just been really interesting to learn actually the mechanic, because sometimes you can just with TCGs you can get screwed over so many times. It's like, oh, they've always got Lawrence into Rapunzel heal, but knowing that they don't always have that, and playing so many games as well, thinking, oh, they always have Let the Storm Cinderella, and they don't always have Let the Storm Cinderella. So yeah, it's just been really fun to learn. It's just kind of keeping me in the game and wanting to actually turn to practice, because I'm like, I really want to get better at Amber. Yeah, it's been a solid list so far. It's definitely like one of the contenders out of these three lists that I have for Axion. So going over to the other two lists, Alice Yearns for the Mines. I don't know if that's a creative name or not. It might be quite cringe to be honest with you. This was my mine build for the Kiwi deck, and I kind of still like it. I'm still looking at maybe just playing this one. The only difference we had from the last one I posted was this one has two Scrooges back in, mainly because just he's an insane body to have on the board, and without the Robin Hoods in this deck, we are forfeiting having really powerful bodies on the board. So a 5/5 on turn 4 is just really, really strong. Like I say, if you're playing against a Doc Mines deck, which I expect to play against a lot of them, they can't run a Lawrence into him and then get some Rapunzel value off it, because it will just be banished off that hit. Of course, we get the Baymax, we get the Alice, and of course, I just know this list a lot better. Scrooge's mana is pretty much, well, the way I kind of looked at it is like, because in Amber Steel Dock Mines, you have Lilo as kind of your tool that you use. I mean, overall, the whole deck is insanely pretty good into Ruby Amethyst and into Ruby Sapphire. But the tool that's the best thing to deal with those Ruby decks, I find, is the Lilo, because it's just recycles. If they're going to be prep and you just put the Lilos back again, they play a Sisu and then they'll hit one and then you can recycle them again, and you just kind of make this overwhelming board state as long as you have the ink advantage for it. We can't really do that with Sapphire, so mana has been that inclusion to deal with these Ruby decks that are going to just basically wipe the board completely at some point, and you need something that sticks, or something that's awkward and going to give you lore. So it's kind of interesting to me. That's how my brain has processed it, is this Lilo and Look Like Mana are these cards that a lot of the time just aren't very useful. I mean, into steel matchups, I don't tend to use the Lilo. I tend to ink it quite a lot. The same way I do with Mukduk Mana, I tend to ink it quite a lot. But into the Ruby matchups, you really see it kind of work quite well, because they're just doing this like overstated board removal, which is like be prepared where the board resets, and then it's like, and here's these things that are going to gain me lore if you don't deal with them every turn, which is Mukduk Mana and Lilo in my opinion. And of course the Baymaxes as well. I think we might be a little bit past the point where this deck is a surprise factor. It had quite a good results over store jams. I'm not trying to hype up the deck too much and say, oh, I made this deck that's warped the meta. It completely hasn't. It didn't really appear at the DLC in Melbourne. I believe some people did play it, and I haven't actually seen it on stream on Battle Bear, but over the store champs, this list has been everywhere, and I think people are kind of aware that Alice Pluto is a thing with the Cogsworth as well. But yeah, it would be definitely going to this if at some point the Amber Steel just didn't work out for me, because I'm just not getting the hang of it. I'm still learning it quite a lot. Like I'm questing with the Lilo, questing with the Daisy when I really shouldn't be. Maybe I am after all that debate about saying that I find Lilo is very powerful in the Ruby matchups, not in the Steel ones. Maybe I'm inking it too much, because sometimes there is a point where you just want to play the board wide and say, if you can't deal with it, I'll win next turn. And Lilo can do that for you, because she is a two quester. But yeah, it might be that I just go back to this dish for sheer comfort level. And I just really like using the mines as well, which means we get to use Happy. It doesn't use the shift line as well, so it feels way more consistent without the shift lines. And even your top decks aren't that bad with the Gantus and the Scrooge as well. It's just another thing. We still have 10 5-drops that are pretty good. And we've got this really nice curve. And sometimes, I'll admit, Lawrence is a better top deck than Robin Hood would be, which is weird for 3 cost. He is just a better top deck because he has 4 strength, and you might be playing against a Ruby deck that's got Medusa, or they might want to just ice block and then brawl it, which they can do against Robin Hood. But Lawrence they can't really do as well. So when you top deck it, you kind of lock in this two lore. You can't really utilize him as well as you could with the Baymax, but you know he's still just an insanely good body. He'll do his job and then he'll be removed, and if he's not removed, he'll quest for two every turn. So he's very good. And this is the final list that I didn't want to talk too much about. I put the testing in, and actually someone run it at an event, and I've been DMing them, so thank you very much for that. The data was very good. I believe it was this list because you mentioned the Mines and the Robin Hood as well, so I believe you went for my hybrid one. And it was, yeah, it was just that as much as I just said I don't think the Robin Hood's that amazing into all the Ruby matchups, I still felt every time I've played Alice for the Mines, I've been like, I really wish I had that Robin Hood shift line, because the Robin Hood still is a very impactful card, especially against Doc Mines and against a lot of the Amber Steel decks right now. That deck can just be such a powerhouse. Not always the shift line, because of course they will have the Cinderella to deal with it. But if you see that they miss the Cinderella, you can get to a point where you can get it out, and maybe even force them to like hard play, let the Storm Rage on turn 3 to take out your Robin Hood, because they just don't want you having that shift line. You know, it's just a really strong card, and just as a top deck, you know, against both these decks, I feel that's why Kida worked really well. But you'll kind of seen her cut, which is kind of true, because I played a bit of kind of true. I'm getting a bit flustered on this comment here, but it used to have these stalemates where you would just both field boards and no one would turn sideways because the trades would be too valuable for your opponent if you did, and then you would play Kida and just turn it all sideways and gain like 12 lore, and then the next turn full quest again. But I found Kida as an underperforming card in like Ruby matchups and into a lot of matchups that you are struggling into. Whereas these matchups where you are already winning it quite well, Kida just doesn't really do much value for you there. So I've seen Kida pretty much cut from a lot of lists, and I kind of agree with that as well. But what I'm trying to get back to my original point is, when you have these stalemates where you're just building up boards and then you're going to turn sideways, we kind of like that because we have Cogsworth. We're going to put everything resist +1, and then we can turn everything sideways, and then Cogsworth is also a guaranteed 2 lore, because they're never going to have triple grab your swords or whatever they would need to remove him. But also Robin Hood on top of that. You top deck that, you put it there, it can turn sideways, it can take something out, it's instantly a huge threat. I've been testing it as well into a lot of these Ruby Steel lists, just because I think everyone has seen the results and seen them on ink decks and just wants to know, is there anything there? And even that's just very interesting, because they play the Robin Hood, they play a Robin Hood and the Mickey. They play both shift lines, and they have a better Mickey than we do. They have a 4/4 red one. Um, Whereas we have this 3/4 +1 resist broom thing that doesn't really, it's not amazing. I've only suggested it as a budget option if you don't own the Robin Hoods. But they play it, and it's just this huge thing that's on the board that's going to need 6 damage to remove it. And even if it's removed in challenge damage, you get the card draw from it as well. And especially for a deck that's lacking the card draw, I wouldn't say that this is lacking like dramatically less card draw because the Robin Hood is out of it, but you do sometimes feel it. The one card draw can just be enough to get you going. It's just another cycle card. Most opponents will try and play around the Robin Hood, and they will try and remove it without you getting the card draw. But yeah, these are the 3 lists that kind of got me still playing and practicing. Of course, this is not me saying I'm dead bored of the game. I'm definitely not. But you know, if you've played one deck and you've played it for however long set 6 has been going, you might start to not want to practice it. You might not want to turn up to your locals and play. You might not want to put the hours in anymore. And I definitely do. I think the Axion's going to be very exciting. So we've taken the opportunity to learn some Amber while still sticking with the classic Kiwi build of Doc, and all the other cards are pretty much the same cards you'd run in the Kiwi build. So yeah, these are the 3 that kind of got me interested. I'm probably going to do some videos over them, maybe do some live videos as well, hopefully get recording tomorrow or soon, because we've got this all built in paper. So yeah, just interesting chat about decks, I hope.